So welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the CODEC show. CODEC, of course, stands for the College of DuPage Entrepreneurship Club. And I'm kind of excited because this is episode number 1 and we have a studio audience. So actually, can I get a little bit of feedback from the studio audience? Thank you all for being here as well. So just a little bit of background for you, our viewers. My name is Peter James, and I am your host here for the CODEC show, as you can see. And I'm very excited, as I mentioned. We're here at the College of DuPage, one of the largest and one of the best community colleges in the entire country, located in Glen Ellen, which is a suburb of Chicago. We're just very excited to be here and present this opportunity to not just the students here in our studio audience, but also to our local community and those who are viewing here on YouTube. That being said, I want to give a shout out to our business, marketing, and management discipline here on campus, our distinguished teachers such as Professor Murtaugh, Professor Toller, I'm going to name them all because if I don't, they'll get mad at me, Professor Toller, Professor Tungle, Professor Payne, and Professor Elliman. Some of you have had all these professors, and also Professor, who am I missing? Tungle, Toller, I think I've hit Bill Carmody as well. So just a shout out to all of them. We have a great business program here, which includes the entrepreneurship and entrepreneurship classes also. But let me not go on a rant about all of that here. Very excited to be here on the campus, but we have a distinguished guest for our episode number 1. And our premise with this show, ladies and gentlemen, is to bring entrepreneurs from the local community and from the local Chicagoland area and bring them to our students so that our students can be exposed to them, one, but also so that our audience can be exposed to them and what they're doing as well. So without further ado, today we have Miss Jodi Norgaard. Am I saying that correctly?
You are. Good.
Yes.
Yeah,
and so Jodi is here, and she is the owner of the Dream Big Toy Company. Am I saying that correct?
Yes, you are.
So welcome,
Thank
first
you.
and foremost, and thank you for being here on episode number 1.
Well, thanks for having me for episode number 1. That's great.
Absolutely. So first and foremost, tell our audience and tell our viewers here about what you do and maybe a little bit about your background and your business, please.
Okay, so I never intended to get into the toy business, let's put it that way. So I'll go back. I went to Indiana University. I graduated with a degree in psychology, okay? I went into the hotel business, whatever. So I go and I work for Ritz-Carlton, and then I start my first business. I have an idea. I decide to start a gift basket business. And then I decide I'm going to use all homemade baked goods from women in the Chicago area. Oprah became my number 1 client.
Wow.
I sold the business because I was pregnant with my 3rd child. I'm like, this is nuts. My husband works a ton. Someone's got to stay home. I'll stay home with these kids and I'll raise them. So anyway, my youngest goes to kindergarten. I'm like, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? My husband says, well, those closets are pretty messy. I'm like, I do not want to clean out closets. I'm like, I'm not going to do that. I'm like, I have an idea. I know something will hit me. So then a few years later, I'm still with the kids and volunteering in school. I'm at a toy store with my daughter, and she's 9 at the time. She's done with her soccer game on a Saturday morning. She's looking all cute and, all rosy cheeks, and we're in the store. And I come upon a line of dolls, and they just stopped me in my tracks. I'm like, oh my gosh, what are these? So I picked up this one doll, and she had on a short skirt, crop top, belly button ring, big hair. I look at my daughter, I look at this doll, and then I look at the name tag on the little hang tag that they have, and the name of the doll was Lovely Lola. And at that moment, I thought to myself, there is not one parent out there that wants the daughter to look, act, or be called Lovely Lola. So I decided to do something about it. I mean, I just found at this certain age, at the age of 9, then I started researching it more. At the age of 9, we start marketing things to girls. Like I wanted to buy a science kit for my daughter. And the ones for my daughter were marketed like, oh, make your own fingernail polish. I'm like, oh, that's crazy. And the one marketed to my son was, blow up this volcano. I'm like, what are we telling our girls? It's like all about appearance. It's not about what's important on the inside. So Took 2 years from rough draft to the debut of the first doll, which was tennis girl Gracie, after my daughter, at the U.S. Open. And we're 500 dolls sold out in 6 days. And so I thought, boy, tell me if I'm getting ahead of your questions.
No, this is actually good.
Okay, so in 6 days, they sold out. I had the opportunity to go in New York. It's happening right now. If anybody's watching the U.S. Open, right, it's going on right now in New York City. So I'm there, and I see all these little girls with the dolls, and I'm with my friends, and I said, I'm going up to the little girls. I'm like, oh my gosh, do you like your dolly? And my friends are like, okay, you got to stop that. You're like a crazy lady, and they don't know who you are.
So you were pretty much cold calling people, like, individually.
Okay, so that's an interesting question,
Yeah.
because so when I was literally in my car. Okay, so I'm telling you all this because it's like weird how an entrepreneur operates. I'm in my car, I'm getting bagels for the kids, and I'm like, I'm going to call the USTA, the United States Tennis Association. So I look on my phone, I call, and I'm like, I call them. I'm like, hey, this is my idea. Can you direct me to the right person? Sure. I get to the right person. She says, yep, we'll take 500. 5 minutes. That was my first sale. 5 minutes. Okay, that was easy. Nothing else was easy. Nothing else was easy. So then the economy took a turn for the worse, and I had space in New York to debut my entire line of 9 dolls at the New York Toy Fair. It was the sparsest attendance they have ever had. A lot of people saw my product, but they didn't want to take on anything new. So I persevered. I had some orders, some small orders over the years, but one problem I had is that I had so many buyers tell me, we love your dolls, but they'll never sell. And I'd say, you love them, you're the buyer, why won't they sell? And they'd say to me, because they're not mainstream. They're not fashion dolls. Girls like fashion. Can you create a fashion doll? Literally, I heard this over and over and wanted to hit my head against the wall every single time. I told all the buyers, I'm like, listen, mainstream ideas create change, or mainstream ideas never create change, and I'm creating change. And also, I know girls like more than fashion. Yeah. There's women in here, and men, you all know you like more than one thing. Girls like more than fashion, and then why would I create a fashion doll? There are thousands of fashion dolls. So that's stupid.
Let me ask you, let me interrupt you real quick.
Sure.
So, because one thing I'm thinking of myself is, I can never make a doll.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to even go back a little bit and
Sure.
say, okay, so you identified this is what you saw there was a gap in the market, more or less, and that there needed to be some more realistic dolls.
Mm-hmm.
How did you go about beginning to manufacture the dolls that you were beginning to sell?
That's a good question, because like I said, there was that 2-year span where I researched online. Were there any sports dolls? No sports dolls. Then, which I couldn't believe. So then my next step was, how do I make a prototype, right? I don't sew. In fact, I hate to sew. So I hired a seamstress. Well, then now how do I find fabric and material? And how do I measure? Okay, so this is what I did. So I use my resources and I ask questions. I always tell people who are starting their business, ask questions to everybody and anybody. People want to help you, and if they don't know, they'll direct you to the right person. So the first thing I did is I measured my daughter Grace and all her friends when they walked into the house. I measured their arm span, their wingspan, their legs, their torso, their head. Literally every little girl that came into my house, they're like, oh, not again. And so then I would jot that down. So that's kind of where STEAM comes into play. I do some talks on STEAM because I think the arts, you never want to lose the arts. I think that's so important. So, but that's where the STEAM comes into play. I had to measure and I had to create. So now I had a friend who was able to make, she's a seamstress and she makes patterns. So I said, can we make a pattern off of this after this? So we took this big, measurements and we scaled it down. So then we made legs, we made arms, we made heads, we made whatever. And then I hired another woman to sew it all, and we put it all together. This took 2 years, you guys. I mean, 2 years to do this. So now I have 9 dolls, and now I have to find a factory. I tried to manufacture it in the States, and it's absolutely 100% impossible. Absolutely not possible.
And that's something good for our students to know, that is how difficult it is to find manufacturers, even stateside, to do something as small as dolls and their clothing as well.
I mean, they said, people, I contacted big, places in New York and North Carolina and in Chicago, and they're like, we'd have to charge you $20 a doll. And then I'd have to turn around, no one's going to buy a rag doll for $40 or $60, I mean, that's ridiculous. Actually, it would be more than that. So anyway, I asked people that I had met in the toy industry to recommend overseas, China, mainly China, factories. And then I sent 3 prototypes to 3 factories. They in turn sent me their prototypes. 2 were horrible, threw them away. 1 was great.
Wow.
But since then, I've worked with different factories in Vietnam, and then now I'm back in China.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So have you ever touched any of your manufacturers at all?
You mean the factories?
Yeah, the factories at all.
I have sourcing companies. So I work with a sourcing company. So I've worked with sourcing.
Explain that for our students if you don't mind.
So, being a small business owner, I don't have any employees, but I have to contract out, right? So I have to have help. So I contract out to a lot of different places. So there are a lot of sourcing companies, and what they do is they have, say, either an office in New York, mainly in New York, and Hong Kong. And so they communicate with the factories. So they take care of all the, the testing of the facilities, because, the last thing I wanted was child labor or any type of horrible labor in the factory that I'm using to produce a product for a child.
Sure.
So, making sure that the factories are set. So, and they have to have certifications. And, it's just a lot of times too, in life, it's just, do you have that good feeling about that person? Are they, do you trust them?
Yeah.
And so.
Interesting as well. So, and again, if anybody has any questions, don't hesitate to raise your hand. I'll be more than happy to regurgitate the question for the benefit of the camera. I do have a question. So now it seems like business is going pretty decent overall, since especially the economic downturn. Who is your target market? Who is your niche? Is it just little girls? Is it a certain age range? What do you tell us about who you're focusing on?
So yes, it is little girls, but it's also the purchaser. So who is this purchaser, right? That's going to be mainly the parent, mainly the mom, or the grandparent, right? So
Absolutely.
There are literally 17 million little girls, or girls I should say, 5 to 18, that play one sport a year in the U.S. That's basically roughly 1 out of every 3 girls plays a sport. Now you look at their parents. Health and physical fitness has become such a important part of life too. So parents want to buy products that are healthy for their daughters. So that's like good in theory, but then there's branding issues, which is very difficult to get your product out there when you have large companies that you compete against.
Yeah, and that's interesting as well. So competition's is stiff in this marketplace for sure, and you are a small fish in a big pond, for lack of a better word. Do you find that even more difficult to compete with? I know my daughter is an American Girl.
Yeah.
She has like 1 or 2 of them at home, plus all the accessories as well. How do you compete? How do you differentiate yourself?
Right. So I love American Girl, and they're just in a world of their own.
Sure.
They're just very high-end dolls. So literally my competition, Barbie, which I would never have guessed when I first started this, Barbie. Bratz dolls, which are horrific. They're awful. I don't know who buys those, but they're horrible. The Groovy Girls, so some of them, which is a very nice line of dolls. But my competition basically is Mattel and MGM, which creates the Bratz dolls. So
interesting.
It's hard in large retail. However, do you want me to go to my next one?
Please, absolutely.
Okay. However, I really have dug my heels in on this issue that we need to start focusing as a society on our young girls and what's important on the inside and not on their appearance. We have to encourage them to use their minds and their bodies in healthy ways. With my 2 boys and my girls, my daughter, I would never ever want more for my boys than I would for my daughter. There has to be equality. There has to be balance. It just makes sense. So that being said, I had an opportunity in 2015 to pitch to Walmart. I had 5 minutes. I was a little nervous.
They actually gave you that much time?
I got 5 minutes. Literally, it was like ready, set, go. And I'm like, bah, 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 and I gave them my spiel. And they're like, winner, we'll take it.
Wow.
So
So you're in Walmart?
Yes. So I'm in Walmart.
Good for you. Congrats.
Thank you.
That's awesome.
Yes.
Not too many get in Walmart.
No, it is.
Yeah.
And that's a whole nother, I mean, they're very nice people and they've been very supportive. They've started a program called their Women's Empowerment Initiative. But their system, it's like working with a different country. I mean,
Sure.
they truly are amazingly huge and their whole system is unbelievable.
Awesome. Any questions from the audience at all?
As a female entrepreneur, are there any challenges you had to overcome just being like a woman, like as a female entrepreneur? Is that any challenge in itself?
So the question was, of course, as a female entrepreneur, are there any challenges that you ever have to overcome just being a female, correct? Did I get that right?
Just in the business.
In the business, yeah.
Well, that's an interesting question. The female entrepreneurship has become so focused on. There are many opportunities and many scholarships that companies are looking for young female entrepreneurs. When it comes to funding, whether it's angel or venture capital, whatever. I mean, that's a little different, but I know that is growing for women. But as a young woman, there are so many different, I think it's a really good time to be a female and starting something. You have to take advantage of what's out there.
And I would even jump on that. There's lots of opportunities, lots of incentives for female entrepreneurs to succeed today, more so than ever in history. So I'm sure it's difficult. It's difficult for everybody as well, but definitely there's some ways some incentives that can allow you to be more successful also. I saw another hand over here.
Oh, it was me. Now that you're at Walmart, how hard is it to find manufacturers and suppliers that will provide you at such big volumes?
So manufacturers, especially since you're in Walmart.
Well, Walmart, factories love it, because they can, the factories in China, that's what they want. They're looking for that next big thing where, they can make a lot of money off of the product. So finding a factory that will help is not that difficult. Once you hit that point, Walmart offers some factories that they work with. Walmart also has very, very high standards, and each factory that I use has to be certified, what's called a ICTI, I-C-T-I, but it means that they are top-notch factories.
Quality factories, yeah. Interesting. I'm a big proponent of you can't do this on your own as an entrepreneur. No matter how much you think you have a great idea and you don't need anybody else to support you, I'm a big proponent of you have to have a great circle, some great advisors, some great mentors. Who has mentored you along the way, especially since you have begun, maybe even up until now, right now? Who's in your circle, so to speak?
Well, I have a lot of people. Like I said, you can't do it yourself. You can never, ever, ever think you can do it yourself. So, Nancy, right? We were speaking before this started, and she has her own business, she has her own business. But anyway, at one point, you have to let go of something, right? Like we were talking about doing like payroll and taxes, and granted, I don't do payroll, but all those financial things and getting them all together. I mean, when I was able to get rid of all that, I was so happy. So, to hire an accountant to do that. So, but as mentors, I have had so many people.
Sure.
I have had, I mean, like the people who have wanted to help and who has wanted to get this message out here. I mean, some people that you may know, Jennifer Siebel Newsom, she is the producer of Misrepresentation. I've had Gretchen Carlson, who was on Fox, but I don't know if you guys have all heard of her situation with the whole sex scandal, and she is like empowering women. But I've also had people in the toy industry who have mentored me. I've had a lot of support. I've had a great support system. You need to always surround yourself with a great support system, because you're not going to have, you're doing it on your own, so you're going to have a ton of questions.
Absolutely. Got a question in the back, yes.
Besides the personal level with the Brave Girls Alliance, I believe that's what you're involved in or co-founder of?
Yes, yes.
Besides that, what benefit is it to your company to get into offshoots like that, to do something for the community?
Oh, gosh.
So what benefit for the community? What benefit?
Besides the personal benefit for you, do you find it helps the company being involved in other outshoots that help the community?
Yeah, does it benefit your company to do other things besides just focusing on the sales, but doing things for the community as well, from your perspective? And even for your sales perspective, does it help? Do you see it helping?
Oh, yeah. Yes, the whole Brave Girl Alliance is, we came together. There were 12 women throughout the world that came together who felt very strongly with issues relating to girls, and there are doctors, there are business owners, there are journalists, and we just came together years ago to kind of be a sounding board for different organizations to bounce things off of, questions. So does it help sales? Does it, what it helps mainly is me personally. I mean, I think it is something that is so important. So that probably trickles down into sales, and I can, speak on that. And yes, and I think it's something that's important. So it's good.
So I got a couple of more questions, just two more questions that I got, and I'm really burning desire because I'm really big on these two as well. So what is a personal habit that you might have on a regular basis, maybe a daily basis, that you think might contribute to your current success or even previous success as well? Is there something that you do regularly that it could be even going to the gym, working out, or for that matter, meditation or something like that? What do you say that really helps you to be a success, especially in this entrepreneurial field?
Okay, there are a few things. Okay, so like in a daily routine?
Sure.
I mean, a daily routine, I always check my email first thing in the morning, like everybody, right? So I always check, and I kind of clean that out, and that's part of my routine. And then and like you said, I always exercise. Every single day I do something, whether it's, like I rode my bike 17 miles today, but that is my meditation. So I've always found that I ran a lot when my kids were little, and I just found like it made me a better mom, it made me a better wife, it made me a better person, but it is good, it just clears my head.
Sure.
So that is a definite part of my routine every single day.
It's 17 miles, huh?
Yeah.
So last one, and I'm sure many of our students here, our college students here, are dying to know this. So if you were college age right now, if you were in their shoes right now, and even some of our audience members, what would you do different, especially in light of starting your own business? If you were thinking about it, especially, and you know a lot right now because you've been through it, and it's valuable. But if you were where they were right now, what would you do in order to move forward in this entrepreneurial venture?
Well, I think that everybody's journey is very unique, and you don't know what is going to spark your interest during your journey. And did you say you were starting a business? Did I overhear that?
I am a hairstylist, and I want to own my own salon one day. So
Okay.
that's a really good question. I'm interested in.
Yeah, so I mean, it's just, what is your interest? I think if I were to go back and go to college again, I kind of had this mindset of, and this is fine, it's like, well, I kind of have to go down that path of this is what my parents told me to do, and I got to do it, but I wish I would have been able to express myself a little bit more creatively. We didn't have the opportunity with these great clubs like this to get you involved and start to make you think. One thing that I should mention, that as a young person, your age, I always had a notebook. I always had a notebook. I had it by my bed. I had it in the car, but I always had it because I would jot things down. Yeah. And sometimes I would tell my husband, when we were first married, oh, I have an idea. And he's like, oh, that's a little wacky. I'm like, okay, that isn't good. So then I would start something else. But it's like that process of what, getting you there. So it's like you just can't get there, bam. You have to go through those steps to get you there.
Absolutely.
And everything is a journey, and just absorb it all.
And I think one of the big things I'm taking away from you is that everybody's journey is different. School doesn't necessarily define your success, but but you still do need it as well. So definitely learn from everyone's journey as we really encounter them as well, and even have those good people around you to be able to breathe into your journey, so to speak, as well.
Yes, and on that note, one more
Absolutely.
thing, you will hear about 10,000 no's to everyone.
Yeah.
Yes. So just remember, there are a lot of no's before you get that yes.
Yeah.
I got a big yes first, but then there were a lot of no's before I got another yes.
Yeah.
And I mean, you have to be really strong. You have to be really, really strong.
And I have
Stay
to
strong.
say, Jodi's yes to begin with is very rare. It's actually pretty non-existent in the entrepreneurial world. I tell a lot of other entrepreneurs or people who are looking to start their business, start to learn to love the word no. It's okay. Doesn't mean you're going to die. It just means that you know what, you got to pick up and keep going until the next yes, whenever that will be. It's coming, as long as you can persevere.
Right, and that's just no for right now. It doesn't mean it's no in 6 months, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So Jodi, I can't thank you enough for being the first guest on the CODEC show
Thank
here,
you.
episode number 1.
Thank
You're
you.
very inspirational to all of us as well. Let's give Jodi a hand. Thank you so much.